It had only been 30 minutes since the battle began. Jangi had fallen into a state of being tightly surrounded, and given the current situation, they could only be in a passive and weakened position. Despite facing some of the strongest forces in the city, Jangi and his group managing to kill hundreds without any casualties was unbelievable. However, with the arrival of Wu Huiran, continuing to fight would make it impossible to maintain their hiding place. The Bishu sect was silently waiting for an opportunity to take advantage of the chaotic situation. Because each force was responsible for different attack directions, Zhaoyu and Yangsheng, the two major bases, had not yet detected their presence. Currently, both bases were suffering heavy losses. How could the Bishu sect miss such a good opportunity? Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai, commanding from behind, were staring at the hiding place right in front of them. Both felt that victory was certain. They seemed to feel relieved. No one had thought from the beginning that this small hiding place would be so difficult to breach. They had already lost a large number of soldiers. However, fortunately, the loss of ordinary soldiers could be compensated. As long as they could seize the abundant resources from Zhang Yi, this battle would not be a loss. Moreover, they could later share the resources from the Shishan base area. At this moment, members of the Bishu sect began to infiltrate the crowd without drawing attention. Hundreds of members of the Bishu sect entered the crowd, dispersing into every corner, with bright smiles on their faces. Some from the Bishu sect walked by, engaging in friendly conversations with soldiers from the two bases, then suddenly activated the explosives on their bodies. Zhaoyu and Yangsheng, leaders of the two major bases, thought that victory was in their hands. But they did not expect their soldiers to suddenly explode violently. At this moment, all the soldiers were gathered around the hiding place in high density. The Bishu sect members, wearing suicide explosives, immediately detonated. Even with regular explosives, the weight was sufficient to cause death. Flames rose to the sky as explosions engulfed the hiding area. Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai were both wide-eyed in astonishment. What is happening? Where are these explosions coming from? They wondered. During the assault, they had carefully dismantled explosives to prevent Zhang Yi from laying mines. So where were these explosions coming from? A soldier hurriedly reported through the intercom, "It's the Bishu sect. Those madmen. They strapped explosives to themselves and committed suicide to destroy us." Wei Dinghai, startled, asked, "What?" Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai were terrified. Wei Dinghai turned back and shouted, "Those bastards dare to exploit the opportunity to attack us." By the time they realized what was wrong, it was too late. Zhang Yixian commanded the Bishu sect disciples, who were unafraid of death, to attack the soldiers of the two bases. At this point, the two bases had suffered catastrophic losses, with casualties exceeding 70%. The remaining number of soldiers was less than 200. Meanwhile, the Bishu sect still maintained a large force. When they attacked from behind, the two bases, completely unprepared, suffered a massive blow. Although their weapons were quite simple and lacked good defensive equipment, each one of them shouted fervent slogans, eyes bloodshot, ready to sacrifice their lives. Their fearlessness struck terror into their enemies. Zhang Yixian, with cold and sharp eyes suddenly filled with madness, raised both hands and directed two large war chariots from above, hurling them forcefully towards Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai. "Don't blame us," he shouted. Wei Dinghai and Xiao Honglian, watching from a distance, saw Zhang Yixian, their eyes filled with deep-seated fury. Wei Dinghai used his ice powers to stop one of the war chariots, while the hot-tempered Xiao Honglian charged straight at the other chariot and, with a single punch, sent it flying away. Zhang Yixian stood, laughing maniacally. "Ha ha ha. Xiao Honglian, Wei Dinghai, both of you deserve to die. Today is your day of reckoning." The Bishu sect had endured for too long. In every conflict, they had to pay a heavy price, conceding to the major bases just to secure a space to survive. Seizing this opportunity, Zhang Yixian laughed incessantly, releasing the sorrow in his heart. "Die, all of you. From now on, the city will no longer be a place where you can run rampant." Zhang Yixian, along with his subordinates, began a frenzied attack, and the actions of the Bishu sect caused the soldiers in the hiding place to be attacked from both sides. Zhang Yi, observing from afar, also saw this scene. Smiling with a few grenades in hand, he said, "We can close the door and beat the dog." The Bishu sect attacked from the front, while the rear was blocked, leaving the soldiers of the two major bases with no escape route. At the same time, Uncle Vu, Su Chunlei, and Liang Yu were taking advantage of the situation by consuming energy food. The door of the hiding place opened, and Liang Yu and the others, after eating the energy food prepared by Yang Xia, regained their strength. They charged out from the rear, starting to annihilate the soldiers and mutants of the two bases. The battlefield situation changed so quickly that no one could predict these events. Even Xingtian, who usually remained calm behind the mountain, was wide-eyed in astonishment. Why did the Bishu sect suddenly betray, he wondered. He pondered and suddenly felt a chill down his spine. Now he understood, Bishu sect and Jangi had signed an agreement beforehand. If he had attacked Jangi today, he would be in the same situation as Yangsheng and Zhaoyu. Though not guaranteed to fail, he would certainly have suffered heavy losses. Lucky, very lucky, Xingtian patted his chest, satisfied with his decision. Now he didn't need to do anything and still gained a significant advantage. Suddenly, a thought flashed, and the smile on Xingtian's lips widened. They are fighting each other so intensely. Later, won't the Qingpu base become the strongest force in city? Ha ha ha. On the battlefield, the situation had completely reversed. The sudden attack of the Bishu sect caused the alliance of the two major bases to suffer heavy casualties. Zhang Yi's team did not suffer any losses. Uncle Vu, carrying 2 machine guns and wrapped in ammunition belts, turned and began to fire madly. Su Chunlei used his ice powers to support Uncle Vu, and their combination left the soldiers with no time to react. Liang Yu, alone with a sword, charged like a tiger into a flock of sheep. Each slash took a life. Zhang Yi was even more ruthless, maintaining a killing speed of 1 person every 2 seconds. In this chaotic battle, he also began targeting the mutants from the two bases within a 300-meter radius. His assassination ability was incredibly terrifying because he could lock onto his targets. Moreover, in such a chaotic situation, no one could fully guard against his abilities, creating ideal conditions for his surprise attacks. He aimed his gun at a mutant and thought to himself. Over there, a mutant trying to break through suddenly felt a tremendous force gripping his neck. Immediately after, his neck snapped and his head flew off his body. Even in death, he did not know how he died. The nearby mutant could only grimace at the sight. Xiao Honglian was also extremely terrified at this moment. She hurriedly tried to contact Xingtian, hoping he and his troops could come to their aid. However, they couldn't reach Xingtian. She angrily shouted, "That bastard, is he pretending to be dead?" On the other side, Wei Dinghai felt a chill down his spine. He had thought Xingtian would lead an attack from behind the mountain, but until they surrounded the hiding place, not a single member from the Qingpu base was seen. While using his powers, he angrily muttered, "Xingtian must have betrayed us." Even the naive Wei Dinghai understood the implications behind this. Wei Dinghai did not hesitate and immediately ordered his subordinates, "Retreat. Quickly retreat. They've colluded from behind, if we don't leave now, it'll be too late." Xiao Honglian, both fearful and thinking to herself, couldn't understand why the Bishu sect and Qingpu base would stab them in the back. But now, her anger was meaningless. If they continued to fight, they might have a slim chance of victory, but the likelihood of total annihilation was higher. As a leader, she couldn't continue the fight. She shouted into the intercom, ordering the entire army to retreat. Xiao Honglian took a large gulp of strong liquor, then spat a blazing stream of fire toward the Bishu sect group. Instantly, dozens of people screamed as they were burned to ashes. They could only stand there, waiting for death, unable to resist. Their bodies smoked, seemingly on fire. The glowing fragments like molten lava appeared all over their bodies, indicating Xiao Honglian had expended too much energy. Her face showed signs of exhaustion. Xiao Honglian jumped high together with Wei Dinghai, then forcefully charged forward to eliminate members of the Bishu sect. Zhang Yixian, seeing this, did not dare to intervene. The leaders of the 4 major bases possessed extraordinary power. Ordinary soldiers and mutants could hardly resist. His goal was merely to weaken the combat strength of the 2 major bases, not to hope for their complete destruction. After this battle, if it wasn't truly a desperate situation, the entire group of disciples would be annihilated. Zhaoyu and the Yangsheng base joined forces to create an escape route. The people from the 2 major bases, along with their mutant forces, cleared the way. Despite their large numbers, the Bishu sect could not stop them. Xiao Honglian, while killing Bishu sect soldiers, angrily shouted, "Get out of my way." Wei Dinghai joined forces with her. The soldiers were gruesomely killed by the 2 leaders of the major bases. At this point, the entire convoy quickly sped away, trying to escape. Wu Huiran, operating a construction vehicle, stopped cutting and slashing, seeking a way out. He muttered fearfully, "It's over. They're all leaving. Who will cover me?" However, Zhang Yi had long been watching those who could threaten the safety of the hiding place. With just one bullet, he ended Wu Huiran's life, eliminating a major threat to the hiding place. Wu Huiran, after being shot, fell from the vehicle and died miserably, with no one to cover him in the end. Less than 100 soldiers from the two major bases escaped the encirclement. They left behind countless corpses, war chariots, and weapons as they retreated eastward. Neither Jangi nor the Bishu sect pursued them. The members of the Bishu sect were also unable to chase after the vehicles. Jangi watched the retreating figures of the remnants and smirked confidently. "Do you think I will let you go?" Zhang Yixian, looking in the direction they retreated, raised his fist high. "We won." Behind him, the disciples cheered enthusiastically. Each one was excited, even hugging each other. This was the first time the Bishu sect had won a victory against the major bases. Although they had lost over 500 people in this battle, it was still a memorable victory for the Bishu sect. Most of the dead were ordinary disciples who could be replaced. On the contrary, the losses of the two major bases were of elite soldiers who could not be easily trained or replaced in a short time. After this battle, the strength of the two major bases had been severely weakened.